Hey, it's Jay, and I am back with another video. And once again, we're going to be talking about Azure Cosmos DB. That's right. So we've been talking a lot about some of the different features of Azure Cosmos DB. And personally, I think some of the things that I've really been able to help you learn quickly are getting started and launching your database. But let's talk a little bit about security in Azure Cosmos DB. Security becomes an incredibly important part of building applications, especially when you're talking about databases, because databases really are the heart and soul of our application. It's where much of our important data will live, and stuff that could contain records about our customers or information that we really need to be concerned about. So if you were to say, go ahead and just build a VM, install a database, and in the particular situation, we'll talk about maybe MongoDB, and you put it online, and let's say you've got a single instance, your security may be a concern, because what if you've got it connected publicly to the internet? If you're not using a newer version of MongoDB, you may run into an insecure default, which leaves your database capable of being connected to the primary public address without it actually having any security, whether it is network-based or using the password. And that's just an issue with some of the older versions of Mongo. The newer versions have really gone ahead and taken care of that, but so you don't need to be too concerned. So let's take a moment and do just this quick security in Azure Cosmos DB overview. So as you can see, when you get through all these different levels of how you're hosting, from unmanaged all the way to managed, you're going to see that how much control the customer has as opposed to the cloud provider. And there's some checklists that you should really concern yourself with. And these are big. Network security and firewall settings. I'm going to show you an example of that in just a minute. User auth and fine-grained user control, so that we can have least access privilege. Because to be honest with you, we don't want to have users that just can do everything. And part of your security should be the ability to understand that if you need to do failovers, how that'll occur. It's less security, and it's more about concern with consistency. But security can also be a concern when you're talking about backups of your data. And you want to make sure that the actual area that your database backups are stored is secure as well, and you'll get that out of Cosmos. And then these are the things that I really find to be some of the most important part. So the actual underlying systems, the servers that is going to run Cosmos DB, those systems will be patched automatically for you, whether it is any of the actual operating systems and supportive software that's needed to run Cosmos, or upgrades to the actual API version to give you newer features in MongoDB, or any of the other types of APIs. You won't have to do that yourself. That will be managed by the Azure Cosmos DB service and the team that built it. So then we've also got HTTPS by default for SSL encryption, TLS, SSL, whatever you want to call it. Making sure that everything is done over a secure socket layer is a big deal. So none of your data will go over the wire unless it's been encrypted. And then no Cosmos database goes online without a password. So that's your basic kind of approach, is that no matter what, you're going to have some sort of simple security that's going to be configured for your database, period, no matter what. And I think that that's important, because if you are not necessarily a DBA or an ops person, and you don't have the most information about how your database server should be configured, these managed services can really help you out. So we've got a couple other different forms of security that are the keys, the actual core to doing anything. So the first is network security. So let's go take a quick look at the network security. When I say network security, you can basically start filtering based on IP addresses. So what I've done is I've gone into the Azure Cosmos DB account that I've created. This is for the MongoDB API. And what I can do right here is go into firewall and virtual networks. So right now what I have is just one virtual network, and this virtual network is configured to allow all traffic to pass through, and it's based on an address space that's configured when we set up. Now if I want to, what I can do is go in here and add additional subnets, and then I could actually, say subnet it and have a private subnet maybe just for database. And then I can have all of my database traffic go over that. So then we can create a security group for it, make sure that we have all the appropriate transfer of data only happen over that security, or I should say that particular subnet. So big add to being able to manage your network is being able to isolate it via the network. So let's go back a little bit more, and we'll see all these different types of ways. So what we can do is we can allow virtual networks to be added right in here. We can go in, select the virtual network that we want to allow to contact our database, and in this case we'll say, I've got another one, we'll just use this one. And then we can select the subnet, and we'll go ahead and use this one. And then we can enable. So that'll enable an additional subnet or address range to be able to access our database. Very cool. So let's go and take a look at whether or not if we actually had to contact our database via the public IP. Now, let's say you want to use a remote administration tool. There's RoboMongo, there's a few other tools that you can go if you don't want to just view via the Data Explorer. You can use it, and to be able to do that, or if you wanted to just be able to shell in, you're going to need to be able to add an address. So you can use this add my current IP here, or let's say you have an added IP address for your office, so 221, just making one up here, /25. And then you can go ahead and save that, and then what it'll do is allow those IP addresses to have access by a very basic firewall setting. So these are the real simple settings, and let's go over the next and we'll talk about authorization. And authorization is going to be something you'll be able to get information about right here. So we've got our connection string. And in our connection string area, we've got passwords and our SSL service that is by default and needs to be turned on. So what's great is that if we want to, we can easily rotate our passwords by just doing this. And we regenerate passwords that if we need to, we have access. We can add read-only keys so that they're not able actually to read and write. And I think that makes it a lot easier to ensure that you don't have someone drop tables or collections. So then we also have other forms of access like RBAC, so you can use role-based access control that's out of the different types of Azure control systems like Active Directory. You see there's all these other services that aren't necessarily a part, but now we get into the HTTPS, TLS, SSL encryption. All client service Azure Cosmos DB interactions are over SSL. And everything, and this is the part that I wanted to make sure we hit, is Azure DB or Azure Cosmos DB will ensure that all your data that is at rest, the data that's not actually being used, will remain encrypted. So here you go. There's no additional cost for that. Microsoft will handle all the key rotation and management. If you want to, it doesn't look like you can use this. Let's see. Cosmos DB is a pass, and we've worked hard to keep the service easy. This question is meeting compliance. We work with compliance auditors to ensure that you use Cosmos DB requires what mentioned. So yeah. So what they're saying is that because of the security compliance rules that are built into some companies, you may want to be able to rotate your own keys, but it looks like what we've done is ensuring that you won't need to have to manage your own keys thanks to the service that's built into Azure and Azure Cloud, or I should say Azure Cosmos DB. And then, of course, all Azure Cosmos DB regions have encryption turned on for all user data. So that's very big. So we've taken our first little steps into working with Azure Cosmos DB and taking a look at some of the security features. We'll continue to discuss that and other features in Cosmos and Azure in general as I continue through the process. If you have any questions or you would like to contact me, you can reach me on Twitter. It's @JDestro. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.